My name is Talia Monroe. I'm 32 years old. And I didn't realize my relationship was already being packaged for someone else until my boyfriend told me to get dressed, like I was about to meet someone important. It was last Tuesday, the kind of Tuesday that should have felt ordinary, just the tired hum of the work week, a couple of reheated leftovers, maybe a show playing in the background while you both pretend you're relaxing. But nothing about that evening was ordinary. I'd been having a rough few months at my job. Long hours, constant deadlines, the kind of stress that follows you home and sits beside you at dinner like an uninvited guest. I'd been holding it together on sheer routine, coffee, calendar reminders, and the stubborn belief that if I kept moving, I wouldn't fall apart. So when Ryan Hale walked through the door around 5, grinning like a man who'd won something, I let myself soften. He didn't even set his keys down before he said, "Okay, get dressed." Like, really dressed. I blinked at him. Why? He came closer, kissed my forehead, quick, practiced, like a stamp of affection, and said, "Because I'm taking you somewhere special tonight. Surprise date." A surprise date. It was such a simple phrase, but it hit me like relief, like oxygen. Ryan and I had been together 4 years, living together too, in my condo, the one I bought before I ever met him, the one I'd worked overtime and sacrificed weekends for. Our life had been stable, not flashy, but solid. Groceries, laundry, joint savings we contributed to like adults. Future plans spoken about in careful, reasonable tones. And lately, we'd been drifting. Not fighting, not screaming, just thinning out. Like a song fading at the end until you suddenly realize you can't hear it anymore. So I smiled. "Okay, where are we going?" He lifted a finger. No questions. Then he paused, eyes sweeping over me like he was assessing a display. "And Talia? Yeah? Just be yourself, but like the best version." I laughed because it sounded like a joke, but he didn't laugh back. He watched me like he was waiting to see if I'd understand the assignment. Something cold brushed the back of my neck. I went to the bedroom anyway, picked a dress that I knew looked good, simple, fitted, soft color, put on earrings I only wore on holidays, curled my hair, made myself into the version of me that looks effortless, even when effort is the whole point. When I came out, Ryan was already dressed. Not his usual nice casual, not the dinner with coworkers look. He was wearing the suit I'd bought him for a wedding we attended last year, the one he'd claimed was too formal for most places. And then I noticed his cologne, the expensive one, the one he only wore twice before. My stomach did a small, nervous flip. "Are we meeting someone?" I asked. He opened the front door like he didn't hear me. "Come on." In the car, he was unusually quiet, checking his reflection in the mirror, adjusting his collar, smoothing his hair like he'd be photographed. I stared out the window as we drove 40 minutes into a neighborhood I'd never been in, where the streets were wider, the trees were older, and the gates looked like they belonged to people who didn't worry about bills. The closer we got, the tighter my chest felt, because I knew that kind of neighborhood. It wasn't surprise date territory. It was statement territory. Ryan turned into a circular driveway and my breath caught. The house in front of us wasn't just big, it was designed to intimidate. Glass walls, steel edges, a lawn so perfectly manicured it looked unreal. The kind of place that doesn't feel lived in, it feels curated. Ryan parked like he'd done it before. I looked at him. "Ryan, whose house is this?" He didn't answer immediately. He just checked his teeth in the mirror, then reached over and squeezed my knee. "Just trust me." And that was when the door opened. A woman stood in the entryway. Late 30s, maybe. Fit in that effortless way that suggests money pays for discipline. Her hair glossy, her outfit casual but expensive. The kind of I didn't try look that costs more than most people's rent. She smiled the second she saw Ryan. Not a polite smile. A familiar one, like a secret shared across years. "Ryan," she said, voice warm. "You made it." Ryan's whole face changed, brightened. Camille Sterling." I didn't know her name yet, but the way he said it, like it mattered, like it carried weight, made me feel suddenly smaller. He got out fast, came around to open my door like we were playing a part. Camille stepped forward and hugged him. And it wasn't a quick hello. It was the kind of hug that lingers just long enough to remind everyone watching that history exists. Then Ryan turned to me, as if remembering I was there. "Talia," he said too brightly, "come on." Camille's eyes landed on me, and the smile stayed, but sharpened. "This must be her," she said. Her, not by name, not like a person, like a reference. Ryan put a hand on my back. "Yeah, Camille, this is Talia." Camille tilted her head. Finally. Finally. As if I'd been late. As if I'd been expected. Ryan cleared his throat. Talia, this is my ex-wife. My heart did something strange, like it tried to jump away from my body. Ex-wife? I repeated. Ryan squeezed my back slightly, like pressure could smooth this over. Camille extended her hand. Her nails were perfect, her grip firm, controlled. So nice to meet you, she said. I've heard a lot. I shook her hand, my palm suddenly damp. Nice to meet you too. Her gaze flicked over me, my dress, my earrings, the effort I'd made. And I could tell with a sick certainty that she was comparing. Not in a loud way, in a quiet, surgical way. Come in, she said, stepping aside. Everyone's inside. Everyone? I stepped into the mansion and immediately felt like I'd entered a world with its own rules. The air smelled like expensive candles and polished stone. The living room was enormous, decorated like a magazine spread. There were two couples sitting with drinks already in hand, laughing like they belonged there. They looked up when we entered. Camille's voice floated through the space like she owned it. Everyone, she announced, smiling wide. This is Ryan, and this is Talia. Then she added, light as a joke, Ryan's current project. The room laughed. Not cruelly, not loudly, just knowingly, like the punchline was obvious. I felt my face freeze. Project? I looked at Ryan, waiting for him to correct her. To say, no, she's my partner. To say, that's not funny. To say anything that made me feel like a human being. But Ryan just chuckled, like he'd heard it before, like he'd agreed to it. I forced a smile so my face wouldn't betray how hard my heart was pounding. Camille leaned closer, voice soft. Oh, don't take it seriously. We're all works in progress, right? But her eyes didn't say progress. They said, prove it. And suddenly the surprise date made sense in the worst way. This wasn't for me. This was for her. And I was the display. I didn't sleep that night. Ryan fell asleep almost instantly. Arm heavy across my waist, breath even, like he'd just come home from a perfectly normal evening. Like he hadn't watched me shrink on a marble floor while his past smiled at me like a hostess inspecting a guest list. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The way Camille said, finally. The way Ryan laughed at Project. The way his posture shifted when she entered a room. Shoulders back, voice brighter, like he'd stepped into a role he remembered being good at. And the worst part? The way everyone else seemed to understand the situation better than I did. Around 6 a.m., when the sky was still gray and thin, I gave up pretending rest was coming. I texted my manager that I wasn't feeling well and took the day off. The lie felt small compared to the one I'd apparently been living in. Ryan left for work around 8, kissed my cheek and said, "We'll talk later, okay?" I nodded. I waited until his car pulled out of the driveway. Then I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, hands folded, heart thudding, like it already knew what I was about to do. I'd never gone through a partner's things before. I hated the idea of it. It felt invasive, desperate, like crossing a line you couldn't uncross. But something about last night hadn't felt like paranoia. It felt like confirmation. Ryan's iPad was in his nightstand drawer, unlocked. He'd always said he didn't like passcodes. If you trust someone, why hide things, he used to say. I picked it up like it might burn me. The screen lit up instantly. No hesitation. No barrier. I opened messages first, scrolled, and there it was. Camille Sterling, pinned to the top. My stomach dropped so fast I had to grip the edge of the bed. The thread wasn't explosive. No explicit photos, no graphic language, which somehow made it worse. Daily messages, sometimes multiple times a day. Thinking about you. Miss your face today. Do you remember that little restaurant by the water? Timing is everything. Soon. Photos. Not nude, not sexual. Intimate. Her at a table with a glass of wine. Her shoes kicked off by a pool. Her reflection in a mirror, hair still damp, wearing the same red dress she'd worn the night before. The same dress Ryan had noticed. The same dress she'd worn for him. Then I found the emails. Longer, more deliberate. Subject lines like when things settle and future thoughts. They talked about careers, about money, about how life had gone off track, but was maybe circling back. And then there was a thread about me. I recognized it instantly because my name wasn't in it. Camille, how's the project coming along? Ryan, getting there. She's smart, just needs refinement. My breath caught. Camille, trainable? A pause. My fingers trembled on the glass. Ryan, still rough around the edges, but yeah, trainable. Trainable. Like I was a dog. Like I was something he was fixing. Upgrading. Preparing. I stared at the word until my vision blurred. Every comment he'd made over the past year suddenly lined up like evidence. You'd look better if you wore your hair like this. You should speak up less around certain people. You don't need to talk about work so much. It's not that interesting to everyone. I'd thought it was concern. I'd thought it was love trying to be helpful. I took screenshots of everything. Every message, every email, the timestamps, the photos, sent them to my email, backed them up, twice. Then I put the iPad back exactly where I found it. When Ryan came home that evening, the condo smelled like food. I'd cooked, not to be kind, to be calm. We ate in silence, the clink of silverware loud in the space between us. Finally, he looked up. Are you still mad about last night? No, I said. His shoulders relaxed immediately. Good, he said, because Camille's having a small dinner party Friday. Thought we could go together. We. As if I hadn't just been humiliated in front of her friends. As a project? I asked quietly. He frowned. What? I have plans Friday, I said. What plans? I met his eyes. I'm meeting with an attorney. The fork slipped from his hand and clattered onto the plate. What? He laughed like it was absurd. Talia, come on. I saw the messages, I said. The emails. The way you talk about me. His face changed in seconds. Shock, then anger, then something defensive and sharp. You went through my iPad? You introduced me as your project to the woman you're still emotionally involved with. She's my ex, he snapped. We're friends. Friends don't talk about timing and futures, I said. Friends don't ask if someone's trainable. He stood up. You're twisting everything. I'm reading what you wrote. This is an overreaction, he said. You're being sensitive. There it was. The word he always used when I noticed something inconvenient. I'm done, I said calmly. I'm ending this. He stared at me like I'd broken character. You can't be serious. Watch me. And for the first time since last Tuesday, I slept. Because clarity, it turns out, is exhausting. But it's also peaceful. I met the attorney Monday morning. Her office was quiet in that specific way that tells you nothing dramatic has happened there today, but plenty has happened there before. Beige walls, framed degrees, a box of tissues that looked well used, not decorative. She was in her late 60s, sharp-eyed, calm. The kind of woman who doesn't interrupt because she already knows where the story is going. I told her everything. The mansion, the word project, the screenshots, the emails, the way Ryan talked about me like I was an unfinished draft. She didn't gasp, didn't shake her head dramatically. She just nodded and said, You're not married. I know, I said, but we live together. In your condo, she corrected gently, that you purchased before the relationship. Yes. Then this isn't a divorce, she said. It's a separation with property and financial disentanglement. Much cleaner, much faster, if you do it correctly. We went through the details. Separate finances except one joint savings account. No shared title. No children. No joint debt. Legally, she said, folding her hands, he has no claim to your property, but you can't just throw his belongings on the curb. We'll document a formal notice, establish a retrieval date, and limit communication. She looked at me over her glasses, and I strongly recommend you change the locks. I did it that afternoon. It felt surreal, watching a stranger rekey the door to the home I'd once thought we were building together. But when the final click echoed through the hallway, something in my chest loosened. That evening, I sent Ryan one message. I'm ending this relationship. Please direct all communication through my attorney. You'll receive formal notice regarding the pickup of your belongings and the division of the joint account. No emotion, no explanation. I blocked him immediately after. That lasted less than an hour. He started calling from unknown numbers, texting from work phones, emailing. The cycle was predictable. First came apologies. I didn't mean it like that. You're blowing this out of proportion. Camille doesn't matter anymore. Then tears. I'm lost without you. I didn't realize how much I hurt you. Then anger. You violated my privacy. You're acting crazy. Then bargaining. I'll stop talking to her. I'll do therapy. I'll prove it. Every message made one thing clearer. He wasn't sorry he'd done it. He was sorry it was costing him something. The formal notice went out Wednesday morning. That's when Camille made her first move. She called me directly. I didn't answer at first. Let it go to voicemail. Her voice was smooth, professional, almost kind. Talia, hi. It's Camille. I think there's been a misunderstanding here, and I'd really like to clear the air, woman to woman. I deleted it. She tried again an hour later. I answered the third time, on speaker, with my attorney sitting across from me. Talia, Camille said warmly. Thank you for taking my call. What do you want? I asked. A pause, a recalibration. I just hate seeing things escalate unnecessarily, she said. Ryan's very upset. This whole situation feels avoidable. Is that so? Yes. Relationships end, emotions get messy, but involving lawyers so quickly, it creates damage that's hard to undo. I almost laughed. You were discussing my trainability in emails, I said. You don't get to manage the tone now. Her voice cooled slightly. Those messages were taken out of context. What context makes them acceptable? Silence. I think you're acting out of hurt, she said finally, and I understand that, but you're making choices that could follow you. There it was, the velvet-wrapped threat. I'm enforcing my boundaries, I said. If you contact me again, it'll go through my attorney. You don't need to be hostile, she said. I don't need to be cooperative either. I hung up. Friday night, Ryan showed up. I knew it was him before he knocked, before he pounded, really. Talia, he shouted. Open the door. I stood on the other side, heart racing, but steady enough. I know you're in there. I opened the door with the chain still on. You got the notice, I said. You know this is my property. You can't lock me out, he said. I live here. You lived here, I corrected. Your pickup time is Sunday at 2. My stuff is in there. I packed it carefully. You'll get everything. He ran a hand through his hair, voice dropping. I made a mistake, okay? I'm sorry. I know. Then why are you doing this? Because you didn't make a mistake, I said. You made a pattern. He tried to push the door. The chain held. Please, he said, desperation bleeding through. Just talk to me. There's nothing left to say. He looked at me like he didn't recognize the version of me standing there. Maybe because he never bothered to learn her. Sunday came quickly. I'd spent the weekend boxing his life out of mine. Clothes, books, electronics, random items I'd never noticed before. I labeled everything, organized it, lined the boxes neatly in the garage. At exactly 2 p.m., a familiar car pulled into the driveway. Ryan got out, and then the passenger door opened. Camille stepped out. Perfect posture, sunglasses, calm smile. They walked toward my garage together like a united front. And in that moment, I understood something with crystal clarity. This wasn't about closure. This was about control. And they thought they still had it. They were wrong. I didn't invite Camille into my home. I didn't have to. She walked into my garage like it was an extension of hers, heels clicking on concrete, sunglasses still on, eyes sweeping the space with thinly veiled appraisal. Ryan trailed behind her, quiet now, smaller. The boxes were stacked neatly along the wall, labeled, organized, and efficient. Not petty. Final. That should be everything, I said, keeping my voice level. Camille gave a small laugh. You're very thorough. I like closure, I replied. Ryan shifted his weight. Can we talk? Just 5 minutes, privately. No, I said. If you have something to say, you can say it here. His jaw tightened. Camille stepped forward slightly, angling herself like a mediator, stepping into a negotiation. Talia, she said softly, this doesn't have to be so hostile. I looked at her, really looked. At the woman who had smiled while dismantling my relationship. At the woman who'd called me a project. At the woman who believed civility meant compliance. This isn't hostility, I said. It's boundaries. She removed her sunglasses slowly. Ryan is devastated, she said. And frankly, I'm concerned about how this is being handled. I'm not interested in your concern. Her smile faded. You're making decisions that could affect people beyond yourself, she said. Careers, reputations. There it was. The implied warning. Are you threatening me? I asked. Her lips pressed together. I'm advising you. Advise someone else. Ryan cleared his throat. Talia, please, I love you. Camille's head snapped toward him for half a second. It was almost imperceptible, but I saw it. The flash of irritation. The truth peeking through. I turned back to Ryan. No, you love the version of me you were trying to turn into something else. I stepped aside. Take your boxes. Camille hesitated, then nodded at Ryan. Let's go. He started loading the car. Watching him carry his life out of my garage while his ex-wife supervised was clarifying. The power dynamic was suddenly obvious. He wasn't choosing her. He was orbiting her. When they finished, Ryan tried one last time. I think you're making a mistake, he said quietly. Then it's mine to make. Camille stepped closer. I hope you don't regret this. I met her gaze. I already don't. They left. 3 days later, I received a letter from an attorney, not Ryan's, Camille's. It accused me of harassing their relationship and demanded I cease all actions interfering with their partnership, including legal separation and property enforcement. My attorney laughed out loud when she read it. This is impressive, she said, in the worst way. She sent back a response so dry it might as well have been a legal obituary. But here's the thing Camille didn't anticipate. People talk. Through a mutual acquaintance, I learned that Camille's business partner, who handled contracts with high-profile clients, was furious. Dating a man freshly removed from a long-term relationship he'd emotionally neglected? Creating legal noise? Risking optics? Not a good look. 2 days later, Ryan called from a new number. You told people, he accused. I didn't tell anyone anything, I said. Well, someone did, he snapped. Now she's under scrutiny at work. That sounds stressful. You're trying to ruin her. I laughed. Ryan, I said, I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just not protecting you anymore. Silence. Then quietly, we're in love. Finally, the truth without polish. Then why were you with me? I asked. No answer. Why waste years pretending I was your future when you were just waiting for her? It wasn't like that. What was it like then? More silence. I'm done, I said. Sign the paperwork. Move on. You're being cruel. No, I said. I'm being honest. I hung up, and for the first time, the silence felt earned. The hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning, early enough that the courthouse still smelled like disinfectant and old paper. Ryan arrived with a new attorney, younger, sharper suit than experience. Camille wasn't beside him this time, but her presence lingered anyway. Text lighting up his phone, his attention split like it always had been. My attorney laid everything out cleanly. The screenshots, the emails, the timeline, the financial records showing separate accounts, separate contributions, separate lives that had only looked shared from the outside. Ryan's attorney tried to frame it as a misunderstanding. Hurt feelings, a friendship taken out of context. The judge didn't buy it. Referring to a partner as trainable, she said evenly, doesn't suggest mutual respect. Ryan stared at the table. Temporary orders were granted exactly as requested. Exclusive use of the condo to me. Joint savings split evenly. No claim to property. No continued contact outside attorneys. Clean, final. Outside the courtroom, Ryan stood frozen, like someone waiting for instructions that weren't coming. Camille appeared from the far end of the hallway. Perfectly dressed, smile fixed, eyes sharp. She didn't look at me. She went straight to him, put her arm through his. I walked to my car alone, and felt lighter than I had in months. 2 weeks later, the fallout started. Camille's company lost a major contract renewal. Officially, it was market conditions. Unofficially, there were questions about judgment, discretion, and unnecessary personal entanglements. Her business partner forced a buyout at a loss. The mansion went on the market not long after. Ryan moved in with her, then moved out. Turns out the version of Camille without the power, the ease, the constant admiration was different, stressed, controlling, sharp, in all the wrong ways. He didn't last. The final paperwork came through 90 days after filing. Everything stayed as ordered. I kept my home, my savings, my dignity. I repainted the bedroom, bought new furniture, took down every photo that had included him, started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I refused to carry someone else's damage forward. Work got better. That stressful project wrapped, and my boss pulled me aside one afternoon. You seem more focused lately, she said, more decisive. I almost smiled. I ran into Ryan once after everything was done. Coffee shop, wrong timing, wrong day. He looked older, smaller. Talia, he said quietly. Hi. Silence stretched. I'm sorry, he said finally. I really hurt you. Yes, I said, you did. I did love you, he added. Just not the way you deserved. I know. That was it. No forgiveness speech, no closure monologue. Just truth. I finished my coffee after he left. Went home. The thing about being someone's project is this. Projects have timelines, end goals, external approval. They get completed or discarded. Ryan never loved me as I was. He loved the idea of refining me, presenting me, using me as proof that he'd moved on, without actually letting go. But I was never a project. I was a person. And leaving wasn't revenge. It was self-respect. I didn't sabotage anyone's career, didn't blast screenshots online, didn't chase validation. I walked away. And karma, quiet, patient karma, handled the rest. I'm not perfect now. I'm still healing. Still angry some days. Still unpacking what it means to be diminished by someone you trusted. But I'm free. And that's worth more than being chosen second by someone who never chose themselves honestly.